Today we're going to be taking a look at the Coolaroo Sun Shades I got on Amazon. I'll put the link below, along with some other tips and tricks, specifically to make the 4 feet by 6 feet shades fit the setting that I have. The widths between, the specific widths between these posts do not match exactly what is recommended on the product description page. So I'll take these down and show you what I did, and I'll also take a look at the ends here. I basically got rid of the manual system and am able to use an impact wrench and to automatically raise and lower these, so I'll show you how that works. I also bought a couple of these, a little pack of these clips that just kind of close back and forth like that, and just coincidentally they happen to be pretty much the exact diameter, so a great little way to hold those down. And even when the wind blows, these things hold pretty strong. They're just they've got some adhesive on the back here, which sticks for a while, but if they're subject to external temperatures and weather and whatnot, you'll definitely want to put some caulking or some adhesive, some glue back there, which is what I did. So those are pretty sound, but kind of a neat little thing. And here's another look at the little clips that I found on Amazon. Those are pretty neat. They close up just coincidentally pretty much the same diameter as the wands, and it holds the wand down really nicely. Adhesive backing. Alright, to take these wands off, I'm just going to open this up, and then I have them hooked on here. Just kind of wiggle that, and this thing comes right off. Of note, the ends, the tips of these hooks definitely rust a little bit. This is they've gone through 2 winters, and I just keep them outside during the winter. So you can see a little bit of rust forming, but not too bad. As for the tips, you do have the option of spraying those with an anti-rust spray. I found a color that matched the wand, so you can't really tell, and that helps the corrosion and rust. And so to take these shades down, you're going to want to insert a flathead screwdriver into this, and you'll depress it in a downward motion, and it'll actually release a little clip in there, and then you'll be able to pull it out as such. There's a better view of that clip in there. So again, when you put your screwdriver in, you'll be lifting up this part here, allowing a little metal clip on the side to come out. And with that side detached, the clutch side over here should just slide right off. And as you can see, they roll and store quite nicely. And I'll also point out that the material and the quality of these shades, we've had these up for 2 winters, and I just leave them up during the winter, and you can see they really maintain their integrity. Now obviously I keep them rolled up during the winter. I don't ever, if it's windy at all, I definitely roll them up, but they're basically like this for the entire winter, and they've really maintained their color quite well and their quality. I haven't seen any depleting, or haven't seen any fading or holes or anything like that. So now that we have that shade down, let's get behind there and take a look at what I actually had to do to make these fit. From this post here to this post here is 52.5 inches essentially. And so if you look at the instruction manual, I believe it says 50.75 width inches is the including the brackets is what they recommend. And obviously the width of the curtain itself is 48 inches. That's what they advertise. I believe it's a little wider than that, but basically I had to build up a little bit here. I just put a little block of wood behind there and painted it and sealed that up with caulking, and that served as the basically the backing for the bracket itself here. So extremely sturdy, it's not going anywhere, and by that way I was able to adjust for the width differential between what they recommend and what my posts actually were. And the same thing on this side here. Now for this shade and the next shade, the width from post to post is 50.5 inches, and so I actually had a little bit of an issue. Instead of having to build it out, I actually had to create a depression for the bracket to fit in. And so I used my Dremel tool and I basically cut out, I believe, about 1/4 of an inch or so on each side. I can't remember the exact depth that I needed, but I just took a pencil and traced an outline and then started to kind of chisel it out with my Dremel tool. And so that now is able to sit nicely, firmly. Of course, I painted the back side of it so it's all sealed up from the elements. And that was able to house and seat everything quite nicely. There's a different view of the other side here. You can see that my notch wasn't exact to the it was a little deeper than the bracket required. But now I'll point out that if you do have to notch things out, then the original hook that it comes with looks like this. And so if you're putting the bracket closer to the post, you're going to have a logistical issue when you try to turn this. The hook, I don't know why they make these so outward, I guess, so you can take them on and off quite easily. So I had a problem that it actually wouldn't work at all because it kept knocking into this. So in that case, what I did was, let me undo this here. I just switched this out with a different hook, one that was a little flatter and a little more conducive to my setup here. You can see there's some rubbing that's happening, but I'm not concerned at all with that. So to switch out the original hook with a modified hook, it's a pretty simple process, but I just had to slide these little rubber things up, and I found one of these little hooks at Lowe's or Home Depot, and so I was able to, I think it was an eye hook actually, because it looks like I actually sawed this off a little bit and filed it down so it's not sharp, and then I drilled a hole through the hook itself and just used a screw with a little nut at the end, and then slid this little rubber thing back over it, and that's sealed up quite nicely. I'll also say, when you get your wand, there's a small pin right below the rubber cap that you'll need to remove. To do this, you can take a drill bit and just drill it out. This is just something I bought at the hardware store, and I was able to kind of slip it down inside there. And again, you're going to want to drill a hole through the middle of that so that your screw and your nut can fit, and lock that down tightly to the actual wand itself. And another option is you could just take the original hook, which looks like this, and with a vise you can just squish it down. The metal's, I mean, no metal's exactly pliable, but with a table vise you could crank it down and kind of depress it as such, and that might help with the width issue to make it less wide. So a couple of different options you can do there. So now let's take a look at how we can raise and lower the shades and the modifications that we need to make to the wand. So this is the original end of the wand that I removed. It actually just connected like that permanently, and you could, well, semi-permanently, you could kind of fold that up and then down like that, and you can manually crank it. So I got rid of this part right here, and I instead am using an impact wrench, and I basically put the end of the impact wrench just onto this part, and then press the button and it automatically brings up the shade. So here's the impact wrench that I have. It's just a simple Craftsman, but you can see the universal bit on the front, and that just you put the end of the wand in there and the bit conforms to the wand, and then you can back it off, raise it, or lower it. Now this thing has a lot of power. Obviously this can take the lug nuts off of your vehicle, so you'll want to be real careful, but I just, you know, lightly, if you push it all the way down, it's going to go pretty strong, but there is a little bit of pressure control, you can see there, so that's able to do the job. Now as far as your bit goes, let's put the camera down here. You've got essentially, I have two parts here. The first one is the half-inch adapter that puts the universal bit, connects the universal bit to the driver itself, and so that clips on, and then this piece you can get, kind of snap it on like that. So pretty simple. And there's also an adapter that you can that can convert this piece to your screwdriver or your cordless drill if you want to use that and you don't actually have an impact driver like this. These are the manual cranks that fit on to the end as such, and then obviously they fold down straight. Well, again, that was a lot of manual labor to be cranking 3 of these shades up and down, up and down. And so this was the first thing that went. So I basically had to take this off here, and to get in a little closer, you can see that there were these little pins, and what I did was I used a screwdriver and I kind of pried that apart as much as I could, and then in the bent position, so it was kind of like that. Once I had it pried apart, I could get my saw back there and slowly begin to so then once I had exposure to that pin back there, I could use my saw, my Dremel tool, or hacksaw would, I think I used a hacksaw if I remember correctly, and was able to cut those posts out, and then they just slide out like that. So pretty simple. And again, you might want to consider spray painting the ends so that it matches your wand. If it's the bare steel, then that will definitely corrode and rust like the tip did a little bit. Alright, so we'll put this back together again. See the end there just slides on as such. Got the anchors down. Alright, and hopefully that is helpful to y'all.